Hey everyone, here's another video. Today I thought it'd be interesting to go through my non-linear video editing process for when I create videos. Some of you know that I prefer to use Davinci Resolve, and so I'm going to walk you through the process of what I do when I create videos for YouTube. Now, some of you may agree or disagree that using proprietary software is good or bad. It doesn't really matter to me. I've used Kdenlive, OpenShot, you name it, all of the open source offerings. And for me, in my personal opinion, and it is just my opinion, I find them far too unstable when dealing with larger projects. And the reason I go with Davinci is because of its stability and speed. Now, if you're interested in installing Davinci, they now do provide a GUI installer, so you're pretty much good to go on any Linux base now, even though supported versions, they recommend CentOS, but that's where you would have paid support, basically. So it is available on Ubuntu base, Arch base, etc., other bases. It's just that you won't have official support if you run it on another base. It's not that it won't run on another base, that's the support model is based on CentOS and the Red Hat. So this is what you get after install. Obviously, I've already installed this. So this is the project manager, and you can see there's my installing salient one. I'm going to start a new untitled project, and we're going to replicate that video. So what you have by default is these tabs at the bottom of the screen here, and they represent basically your workflow. So the media pool here is where you would import your clips, and then you have the edit tab. This is where you do the bulk of the work. This is the timeline. This is the inspector, the preview area, the media pool here, and your effects library here. And all of these things can be toggled on and off by utilising these buttons up here. So if the inspector is not viewing, you'll have a dual pane scenario. And so if you had clips here, you could preview your clips here, and you can set in points and out points and things like that. And this is the final product preview over here. But if you load the inspector, then it will drop back down to a single window. And this is my preferred workflow, like this. Then we have Fusion. So now, some of you may know that Fusion 9 is Blackmagic Design's standalone 3D compositor tool. And some may argue that the version bundled with Davinci is quite cut down, not as versatile as the standalone version, and you're free to install both. They offer both of them for free on all platforms. Although there are paid versions, you can get the free versions, but we won't be using the compositor at this point. There's no need for it. And also, color management is excellent, unsurpassed. In fact, it's an amazing color tool for matching color from your raw camera footage and getting a consistent look and feel across projects. It is node based, so it's non-destructive in that respect. Maybe we'll touch on this in another video, but it's extremely powerful. Fairlight is where you will do most of your audio editing, and this again is an extremely powerful tool. You have lots and lots of very, very good tools in here. Fairlight effects include chorus, de-esser, de-hummer, excellent for audio, especially human speech audio primarily. Delays, distortion, echoes, flanges, modulation, multiband compressor, which is an awesome tool, very powerful, noise reduction, pitch shifting, reverb, soft clipping, stereo fixer, stereo width, and vocal channel. Davinci has some extremely powerful vocal tools in here, multiple takes and things like that. The built-in equalizer is very, very good, extremely powerful, and you can choose from, you know, different kind of themes, I guess these are, or types of audio styles, I guess these are, but they name them earth, air, ice and fire. So one of the first things I always do is band 6 and band 1, take out the tops, take out the lows. That pretty much fixes your audio for most scenarios anyway. And then you have the deliver tab, and this is where you will choose the format for your output. As you can see, it's very extensive. You can have custom. It caters for YouTube, various formats. It caters for Vimeo, various formats. You have IMF generic, Final Cut Pro, and Final Cut Pro 10, Premiere XML, Avid, AAF, Pro Tools, and audio only. Extremely versatile tool. Obviously, we'll be utilizing the YouTube option here. And so we'll touch on this as we go through the project. So this is your basic workflow. You import media, you edit the media, you either use compositing, you color grade, you fix up your audio, and then you deliver it as a final product. So let's import some media. So I'm going to utilize this one. So these videos have been recorded in a particular way, and what I'll do, if I load up, I'm going to tell that to change because just to get this in front. Right, so this is OBS obviously, and we'll go into the settings here, and I'm going to show you how you can set up OBS and Simple Screen Recorder. I've done this before, I've already done a video on this, but I'm going to go through it again. If you come into the recording tab here and change this, yeah, advanced is fine, but change the type to custom output FFmpeg. Okay, obviously choose a location, and the container format, and these settings are true for both Simple Screen Recorder and OBS. They're exactly the same, only in Simple Screen Recorder you change the type to other on each section. Right, so the container format here is going to be MOV, and there's a reason for that. That's just the container. The video codec and the audio codec is what is important. Right, so we have a MOV container. We're going to change the video encoder to MPEG-4. And we're going to change the audio container to PCM S16 LE. Now, depending on your Pulse audio config, you may want to change that to F32 LE, 32-bit. But for this purposes, we'll use S16 LE. And that's all you need to do. This container with this video encoder, with this audio encoder, will allow you to create source material that you can drop straight into Davinci Resolve without having to do anything else. You can set this up in Simple Screen Recorder, which is what I'm using right now. These exact settings, except for the bitrate, is different. On my Simple Screen Recorder settings, I'm using 48,000. And for these types of videos, that's absolutely fine. There's not a lot of movement on screen. And on the audio bitrate, I'm actually using 192 instead of 160, but 160 would be fine. Okay, so these are the settings: a MOV container, MPEG-4 video encoder, PCM S16 LE audio encoder. Doing that, you can import your source material directly into the free version of Resolve. Right, with that out of the way, I'm going to import another piece of media and put Yeah, that's the beginning one. Okay. Right, it's going to import some more media. The projects, SB. This is just, that's the intro video, obviously. And I'm going to bring in another source, just an image. Okay, so there's the media clips. They're in the pool now. And if I jump across to edit, you can see them in the media clip area up there. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in the intro and drop it on the timeline. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see. Now this cursor is very important. The way Davinci works is that wherever this cursor is in the timeline is where focus is given. So if I hit zoom now, you can see it's jumped to the center of this timeline area. If I get rid of those for a second, yeah, we can extend the timeline. So if I move that cursor to here and then do a zoom out, zoom in, obviously that clip is too small for it to center. I'm going to add some more content so we can see that in context now. So I'll go back to the media pool. I'm going to bring in an image that I want to use. And as you can see, snapping is on, this little magnet tool is on, and linked clips is on. So the audio by default is linked to the video. You can unlink them if you needed to adjust the audio position to lip syncing and things like that, for example. You can unlink the clips and you're then freely able to move the audio independently of the video, which is a very useful feature. I'm going to link those clips back again. And with snapping on, you can see that this will jump. As you come near the clip, it will snap to it, which is very, very good. Very useful feature. So I'll bring the first video in, that snaps to there. And now if I example this position of the cursor, if I do a zoom, you can see that immediately jumps. It tries to center itself in the timeline, and this is the focal area. So it's important to move that to where you want it before you start manipulating, otherwise you could find yourself jumping all around the timeline. It takes a little while to get used to, but once you've got it, it's great. So for this opening clip, I don't want this intro to be blaring everybody out. So I'm going to use this little bar here and pull that audio down. So this is very low in the mix as opposed to the video. If I press Shift Z or Shift Z, that will show everything in the timeline altogether. Now I'm going to right click on this clip and tell it to normalize the audio level, and it will normalize that to 0 dB, which is standard. And we may see a change, we may not, because the microphone level was fairly good to begin with. I'm going to bring in the second clip and drop that next to that one. And I'm going to do the same with this clip. I'm going to normalize the audio. And I didn't see much of a change there either, so I'm assuming that's pretty good. Normally you would see a vast difference from where the audio is if it's quite low to normalized. If it's close to normalization, then you won't see much change anyway. And I'm going to bring this image back in and put it at the end as part of the outro. So now we've got that, we can start adding our effects and how we want this to work. So on this clip, go to video transitions. I'm going to bring in a blur dissolve and drop that at the end there. And then I'm going to drag this back slightly because I want this effect to start taking place before the clip is finished. Like that. So it blurs into the next image. So this is the intro, so we're going to need a title here as to what this video is all about. So I'm going to go to titles, lower third, drag that into there. Bring that back a little bit. And then in the inspector up here, you can see these are our options, and we have lots of options. If you notice these little diamonds next to each thing, that means that these elements are keyframeable. So you can manipulate these text items. You could, for example, change the position and keyframe it. You can change the scale and you can reframe it, keyframe it, and you can do that over time. It's very powerful. These ones will undo those actions. So it's an extremely powerful tool. I tend not to use the keyframes. I don't have a particular need for them at the moment, but that is something that you have available to you. Very powerful text options as well, which is very good. So let's give this a title. And I'm going to change the font to one I like, called Techo. And I'm going to use the positional controls here. You've got X and Y, and I'm going to bring this down on the Y axis just to sit there, because we're creating a lower third here. Change this font to Techo as well. And we're going to bring the position of this item down too. And then we can give this a title, let's say, using Davinci Resolve for, let's say, video editing. That's an example. And if I click away there, we can get a handle on. So I can change the size of this slightly, bring it down a little bit. That's fine to me. I'm okay with that. So what we can do now on this clip here, on this item here, this bar, this double bar here in the middle, that's the center. You can drag that up and down to create more room. You can click on the top of these and you can drag them down if you want to lower them. So you can actually take the previews away or make them smaller if you need to. So it's all adjustable. The GUI is extremely flexible in that way. But this bar is the main center bar that differentiates between the video and the audio, and you can grab that and you can move it up and down. So what I want to do on this text item here, I want to create a little fade in. So you grab these little handles and you just drag them left and right. I want to be a little bit quicker than that. About 30, they're about the same now. So if we come back to here and play that through, blur, dissolve to there, that fades in, plays for a little bit, fades back out. Okay, so that's that intro done. Next I'm going to do a cross dissolve on this clip here. I can see the audio starts here. That's just me saying hello. So I'm going to let this cross fade rather slowly because the main bulk of the audio starts here. So I'm okay with this, and you can see here it's created a keyframe on this one because when it came in it was one size and I've adjusted it so it's keyframed that new size. But where I haven't manipulated it on the timeline, that keyframe is just setting those properties. So now if we play that a bit there, that will fade out and it will cross dissolve gently.
Hey everyone. Today we're going to...
I could pull that back a little bit so that it's a little bit quicker.
Hey everyone.
There we go, there's a nice smooth cross dissolve.
Today we're going to...
Okay, so to see the entire timeline, you press Control Z, Control Z, and that shows everything in the timeline. And now I'm interested in this section here because there's a clip where I quit out of that as the installer's going on, and not a cross dissolve. Yeah, a cross dissolve was good. So I'm going to drop that on there. And we should see that effect.
Back once it's further down the line.
No, that was an instant cut. So what we can do, if we grab this one and move it up, that will split it. Now we can put a cross dissolve there.
And then I'll be back once it's further down the line.
See, that was a straight cut. That's not quite what I'm looking for. There we go. Cross dissolve, cross dissolve.
Yeah. And I'll be back once it's further down the line. Okay, so it's
So that just creates a simple little, instead of cutting directly, it just, you know, little fade out, little fade in, and that's fine. So what we can do as well, this area here, you can grab that and you can move this up and down, so that gives you control over the preview area. And as you get more content in here, if you've got multiple layers, you would need that, or you can start manipulating these by pulling the size down and up, depending on what you feel you need to see at the time. So with that,
don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.
okay. So now we're going to do our little fade out routine here. So what I'm going to do on this text item, I'm going to zoom in, or this image rather, I'm going to zoom in. And to navigate around the timeline is very easy. You can use your home key, and that will take you back to the beginning. You can use your end key, and that will take you to the end directly. You can, on these items here, if you click, it will jump to the next section. I'm not quite sure what the keyboard shortcut for this is, but it will jump segment to segment, so you can quickly jump between clips. And effects, so from the clip it jumped to the effect, and to the beginning of the effect, and then to the start of the clip, and then to the beginning of the clip. So these will jump you to not only the clips but also the effects on the clips as well, which is very, very useful, very quick way of navigating. So I'm going to bring in another text item, and this time I'm going to use a middle lower third on this. And we don't want all of that, we want that to come back, because we're going to use a fade out on the end to do a fade to black. And again here, I'm going to choose Techo. I'm going to do a thanks for watching. And obviously where this image has a hard-coded text item, we're going to now need to balance this for it to work nicely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that position to something like 600. That should work. And we've got roughly the same gap either side of these. So I'm happy with that. And then on the positional, I'm going to drop it up. Now, if it looks like it disappears like that, don't worry, just keep hold of the mouse and just bring it back, and it will scroll back down again. That looks about right to me. We're just trying to get it to roughly the same height as this S, basically, but there's going to be two text items, so we'll be doing the same as this. Okay, change the font again, Techo, and we'll do the same on the positional, change that to 600. If you double click those boxes, you can enter your own text, or you basically it's waiting for you to drag left and right, but if you double click, it will let you manually enter text. So we want this to go up there. I'm going to change the scale. We may have to move that up slightly. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I'm okay with that. It's just an example anyway. And again, I'm going to do a little fade in on that text item. And a fade out. Now where this one fades out, I'm going to get this image, and it has the same handles for fading in and out, and I'm going to bring this one, in fact I'm going to bring this in a bit, it's a little bit long, bring that up to there, so where that text fades out we do a complete fade to black. And on the end of this clip now, I'm going to do a cross dissolve at the end, if it will let me. There we go, do a cross dissolve there, and the audio runs out there. So
Thank you very much.
there's the cross dissolve. No, that did a snap, didn't it? Let's remove that effect. Control Z, jump back to there. Let's zoom that back in. They are there. I'm going to bring that down so they're together.
Once it's further down the line.
Right, there's that. Jump to the end. Now we can get a handle on where we are with this. So I'm going to put the cursor there, zoom back in, and now it will let me put a cross dissolve there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, nice simple little cross dissolve there. I'm going to make that a little bit longer so it's a bit more subtle.
In the next video. Thank you very much.
There we go, nice subtle crossfade there. And then that will fade out to black. Lovely, that'll do. So let's zoom back in a sec. I'm going to go home, Shift C, Shift Z. That shows me the entire timeline. Now we don't need Fusion and we don't need to color grade, so we're going to jump straight to Fairlight. And on the audio here, right, I can see it's given me a secondary audio track because I split the video and then I put the video back. So this audio track, A2, we don't need. So I'm going to delete that track. I'm going to go back to Fairlight, and now we're back to where we are. And the same is true for this area here as well. If you do Shift C, Shift Z, it will show the entire timeline, or the entire clips in the timeline. So we don't have to do any scrolling. You can though, if you need to. If you want fine-grained control over it, you can zoom right in, right down to the audio level there. Very good. Right, so we're going to apply, I'm going to remove, yeah, that one's fine. So this is our channel strip here, audio 1 relates to audio 1 here. And as you can see, you get a preview here. And if I play that, you get audio and all that. So on this clip here, we have effects. I don't need to do anything in there, although we could do some de-essing on the audio if we needed to. But where, well, yeah, we could go into that, I suppose. This is quite a but it's an extremely powerful tool. If I play that,
box, so I'm going to edit
and then I
this.
invert that, it will only play the de-essed section, and you can change the position of, basically when you're de-essing, you're trying to take control of the sibilants and the plosives in audio. And if I switch that back now, this is the target area that is being de-essed, and you can see this happening in real time. You can tell it fast or slow.
And what I'm looking into now for the next build of Salient OS is to,
If I reverse that again,
raw file system module
you hear the audio.
to do a file system copy rather than an unsquash, which should be a bit quicker for most people. I mean, this doesn't take very long at all anyway. It takes about 10 minutes tops.
Okay, we're going to go with that.
The file system copy should be a bit quicker. I believe it uses
Right, there we go. There's that one.
You get a, well, so that should give
Right, we're peaking a little bit here.
native resolution.
So what I'm going to do on the main audio,
The first thing.
right, let's pull that up so we can see all of this interface, because it's good to see.
Type SU, enter your password. Okay, and
All right, let's bring that back.
copy should be a bit quick.
This.
Open commands, and we can see here there are the AUR packages.
Right, we're going to take control of that. So on the The EQ on the main audio, I'm going to hit band 6 and band 1 straight away just to take the highs and lows off. We don't really need it on that one, but it's been applied. That's not a problem. That's just on the final output. But the effect I want to apply on the master output is just a multi-band compressor. And if we play that now, we'll see that those peaks have been brought right down.
Circle icons and PAMAC, AUR and EA all need upgrading. So we're going to let them do that. We say yeah.
So that's good. If you wanted to, you can come into the equalizer.
Yes, we want to remove dependencies.
If you wanted to boost any of the areas of your voice or anything like that,
just press enter. And then we're
you can grab these little nodes. So I could make it more bassy,
So we're going to pop that key.
more middle,
And we're going to say yes to do the updates.
more top.
It's going to bring in the dependencies it needs whilst it's compiling.
Okay.
Once it's done, it will remove those dependencies.
You can change these band nodes here as well. So if we want more control over it, we're pushing up.
We don't need. This will ensure that DXVK
You can hear the difference there.
and Lutherus are fully up to date as well, because they were sourced separately through GitHub, which technically makes them AUR packages.
If you do it that way, it's more global. But we don't want that. We want to isolate that.
Source packages that I know are safe for this system. And so there's actually only two commands you need to perform when performing updates if you do it from the terminal. You can do it from PAMAC up here if you want to. You can enable the AUR and PAMAC. But I would recommend doing it from the terminal. If you use the PAC-UPG pack upgrade alias.
Okay, that's that side of it done. I think that's quite good. I'm going to go with that. So we've taken control of the peaks.
Automatically refreshes the mirrors and then
We don't actually need that de-esser in this instance. I'm going to delete that plugin, but we do still need the multi-band compressor just to keep the compression down, which takes control of those peaks. So with that, as long as let's assume we're happy with this now, let's just do a little playthrough. So the intro volume is down, so we're not blasting people's ears out. There's our little crossfade there.
hey everyone.
And then we're into the main content. Alright, so the Deliver tab, excuse me. The Deliver tab is where the main export happens. This is where we create the final product. And you can see our clips lined up here on the timeline as it's going to render these in order. So one thing I would recommend is when you're on this in timeline here, do Shift Z, Shift C to bring this entire timeline into view. Otherwise, this will be scrolling along as it's rendering. So if this extends beyond the view, it's going to be scrolling the timeline at the same time that it's rendering. So this will save you some CPU cycles by allowing this view to show the entire clip set. So in this instance, we're going to use a YouTube 1080p. I'm going to give it a location to save the video. And you can do that in the project settings. By default, you will only see the first one, the Resolve folder that it wants to use. You can add more sources here. So what I've done, I've come in here and I've added my videos folder as a secondary, and now Resolve can use that. So initially you won't see that one, you have to add that manually. So let's give this a title. That'll do, using Davinci Resolve. And now, because of the way I recorded this that I showed in the beginning, it's a QuickTime, the MOV obviously is a QuickTime container, but it thinks the codec is a DNxHD, and that's a storage container for very high quality. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that to MPEG, which is what YouTube will support better than that DNxHD. But as you can see, the settings are fine for this. It's recognised MPEG-4 video, 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames a second with the best quality. I don't need to do anything else there. That's the only thing I needed to do. And as you can see, it's linear PCM because we chose PCM S16LE, which is 16-bit audio. Okay, so that project's set now. All we needed was the title and changing the codec to MPEG-4 or to MPEG. Now I can add that to the render queue. The render queue is over here. It's claiming that's an untitled project, so I'm going to quit that. I'm going to go back to the media pool. Well, you don't need to. You can do this in any area, but I tend to do it when I'm here. I'm going to go save project as. And it's a good idea to do this at the beginning, really, not at the end. So if anything does go wrong with your project, you can recall it. But that's just what I've done. So now I'm going to reselect that. I'll tell it that will do for a title. We've done this change, so it's remembered that. We just add that to the render queue, and now you can see it's taken on the title instead of saying unknown project. That's ready to roll now. So I'm going to hit start render. And as you can see, this is coming through. So all this gets grayed out now because you can't change any settings whilst it's rendering. And you can see it will step through these as it renders them. Now this will render quite quickly. Normally we get a frame rate up here, but where I'm screencasting, we may not see that. On my GPU, this will probably, I get up to 170 FPS when this is encoding, but not whilst we're screencasting. So I'm going to let this render through. So I'm going to pause the video here, and as it gets closer to the end, I'll come back again. Okay, so we're almost at the end of rendering now. As you can see on the timeline, that's almost at the end. Now there's one caveat to using this with NVIDIA cards. It's not enough that your card has CUDA capability. You have to install the full CUDA toolkit in order for Davinci to work properly, so that it can see your GPU compute capabilities correctly. It's quite a sizable download. It's just over 1 gigabyte, but if you install CUDA, reboot, then install Davinci, you'll be good. So that is one aspect you must have installed, is CUDA itself, and that's very easy to do. You just do a pacman -S CUDA, and it will install the framework for you. So that's rendered, that's done. So we can get rid of that out of the job queue now, and all that's left to do is I'm going to save this project back again, just to save it. I'm going to quit Davinci. And now if we go to our videos folder, there's our video. And that's the rendered output. As you can see, everything's working properly.
Hey everyone.
And that's how I produce my videos for YouTube. And that has been reduced down to 1.1 gig. So the source files for that were this one, which is 1 gig, and that one, which is just under 300 meg, plus the intro movie, plus the image, and the overlays and the effects. So we've got a 1 gig video there that I will upload to YouTube very shortly. So there we have it. That's my process. And I've only touched on the very basics in Davinci, really. It's a lot more powerful than what I've done here. I'm just using it as a basic non-linear video editor with a few effects. It is much more powerful than that. There is so much you can do. And there's the project. So if we reload that in, as you can see, everything's maintained. It remembers everything, which is very good. For example, with Fusion. Now, I'm not going to go into Fusion here because it is very, very in-depth. That's a video unto itself. But essentially, you have your media in, the effects you would like to apply in between, and the media output. But this is full 3-dimensional compositing. It's not just flat 2D compositing. You can actually manipulate things in 3D space here. Very, very powerful indeed. Again, with the colouring, if I go to a clip, for example, it's node based, so it will manipulate on a node based level. So if I add a node and say a corrector and then snap that, see the line changes there, that's now in line. Whatever I do here now is applying to that node only, so it's non-destructive. So you can change your color settings, color hues, all sorts of wonderful things here. There are lots of presets here that you can do as well. You can use bars, you can use wheels, you can do logarithmic. It's very, very powerful indeed. You can choose from different color sets. Very, very powerful system. So if I wanted to change the gain in a particular direction, you can see there's more of a sepia effect there now. If I change it back to blue as a colder, change it to green, change it, you can very, very fine-grained control over this in this system. I'm going to delete that node because I'm not doing any color correction on this video at all. That's just to show you a very, very basic aspect of it. And Fairlight again is extremely powerful. Very, very good for fixing up your audio. Obviously, if you have background noises and hisses and things like that, I would recommend using something like Audacity to quash those things and then import your audio in, and you can manipulate it with the EQ and the effects. Some very powerful effects here, especially the multi-band compressor. Very, very good. The noise reduction tool is very good. De-esser is essential for audio, human speech. Very, very powerful. And the EQ as well. Extremely powerful tools. Okay. So as I said, we've literally just touched the surface of what Davinci is capable of. I'm not going to save that because I don't need to. And so there we have it. That is my non-linear video editing workflow, how I create my YouTube videos. If I'm not screencasting, this process is much quicker, as I say, because it utilizes the GPU to do the heavy lifting, which saves your CPU cycles considerably. And that's it. That's how I do my videos. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.